Hello, this is Scarlet and Rage podcast, the Scarlet and Rage podcast. I am Michael, the voice of reason, and this is my co-host, Jay, the voice of rage. And a lot to talk about. This is the peak of college football season, frankly. This is the time of year where it's easy to just constantly be consuming college football content. I know that's what I have been doing. And I imagine that's what many of you have been doing as well. And so, we're going to kind of further that conversation tonight, taking a look at the playoff bracket, the seeding, some disappointment among Buckeye fans that there was, an eighth seed, or that we got the eighth seed. Some were hoping for more than that. Good evening, Shane. Good to have you. Some were hoping for a little better seeding than that, but it didn't happen, and we'll talk about whether we think that's fair or whether that's not fair, whether Ohio State's gotten hosed again. We'll talk about that as well, Nick. But anyhow, Rage, how was your weekend? Did you take in all the games?
I try to watch as much as humanly possible, as a single man can on this planet. I tried to indulge absolutely as much as I can, starting with Boise State and who's the team they played on Friday night again? It was UNLV.
Yeah.
I watched that game, and then obviously I watched all the games Saturday. I've been basically watching all of the playoff shows and stuff like that. But man, Michael, I just, before we even bring up anything, can you believe that the regular season and conference championships are over? Like, the season is over now. Now we're in the postseason. Where did time go? Like, seriously, like this is crazy, man. Like, it just went by in a blink of an eye. And once again, we're, through another college football season, man.
Well, it's that way every year. The individual weeks seem to go by slowly. Especially like when the Buckeyes have a bye, that's like, it seems like it's forever, but you look back and the season is gone just like that every year. And then it's on to the next season. But plenty of time to look at next season, Jay. Right now, we're going to talk about this season and some of the, some of the controversies or displeasures that have come up because of where we got seated. But before we get to that, you wanted to discuss the committee that seated them. So let's get into that.
Yeah, man. I tell you, just bear with me, everyone. I just got done eating this huge lasagna dinner, cheating on the diet, man. I'm trying to slim down, but not easy to do around Christmas. But damn, man, what was I going to say? Dude, I will say this about the committee. How, honestly, Michael, you and I would like safely, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say we know what we're talking about for the most part, or else we wouldn't have this show. But how cool would it be to be a part of the college football playoff committee? Like, seriously, like that, it would just be so cool. I think they get flown to, I believe, Grapevine, Texas, unless they switch locations. But they get flown there, and they basically watch football all weekend. Would be such a cool fucking gig.
In like a plush, luxurious environment.
Yeah, I mean, I thought like their screens would be bigger, but when you see them like on TV watching the games, you would think like I don't know, maybe the setup's a little better, but like, the TVs aren't as big as you would think. Like I thought they would be like on like overhead projectors or something like that. But I don't know. I just thought it was it's just really cool, man. I guess I'm
sorry, go ahead.
I guess my next thoughts are, man, what the heck do we need to do to get on it? Just be somebody? Be a somebody?
Well, I mean, it's primarily athletic directors, and then there's some other, outside of that sprinkled in. But yeah, very high profile gig. If you're, either be an athletic director or be somebody very high profile. That seems to be the criteria for it. But I'll say, Rage, they stuck to what they set out. Many people doubted whether they were going to do it. And because other committees in the past under the 4-team format have said they were going to be looking for one thing, and then they just kind of change it as the season goes. Like they just kind of change their mind on that. Like, oh yeah, that doesn't actually matter. This is actually what matters now. So a lot of people assumed that that's what was going to happen. It didn't happen. They said we're not punishing teams for playing in the conference championship. And so if they stuck to that, we knew the Buckeyes were not going to get a 6. Like that was not even anywhere in the question. And probably not even a 7. We're probably at the 8 if they stick to that. And they stuck to it. And so that's where we're at. I don't think it should be that big of a surprise for most Buckeye fans. I think anything beyond the 8 was wishful thinking. And in this case, we got a pretty solid matchup in the Tennessee Volunteers.
Shout out to Ward Manuel. I know we have a lot of Michigan fans that listen to our show, but shout out to him, man. What a well-spoken individual. Has his head on his shoulders correctly. Intelligent guy, stuck to his plan. There really were no there wasn't much gray area. You said it yourself. They stuck to their plan. You see how he runs Michigan's athletic department, man. Like that athletic department, for the most part, is flourishing. They are kind of separated from the rest of the university's left-wing socialistic policies and stuff, because their athletic department, man, is just, it's running on all cylinders, man. You see the momentum their football team has. They just won a national championship. It's not just like new momentum. They just had, a national championship. They got the number 1 player in the country, and their basketball program is looking solid, man. They made a great hire there. Their baseball program is, 10 times better than Ohio State's. They have a lot of things going for them, man, and it's mostly because of him.
Well, I said it last year, Jay, that it seemed to me there was all the controversy, obviously, with the sign stealing and all that. But it seemed to me that Michigan just kind of decided like they were going to go like the SEC, like they were just looking for any edge possible. And so I gave them credit for that, because that's kind of always what I've wished Ohio State would do. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, they have a lot of momentum, and it's strange how we're 10-2 going to play a historic first home playoff game, and our fan base is very uneasy and very divided.
Did you watch the ESPN shows today by any chance when they were announcing all of it going on? Did you happen to watch them?
Well, I saw bits and pieces of several. Yeah. Which one specifically?
Just the initial reaction show. Not a reaction show, but the live show. I'm sorry. Live show to the brackets being announced. Did you watch that?
I did not watch that. I watched several reactions to it.
Okay. So Ohio State got unveiled to be the number 8 seed in the country. And they were playing a home game. They got revealed to be playing a home game against Tennessee. Now, mind you, I want to preface this by saying that, Kirk Herbstreit, you see, he used to have that dog that was dying following him everywhere.
Right.
Okay, well, now he has a new dog. I understand the first dog. Okay, your dog's dying. You want to provide him a good life. Why do you have this other dog following you around and just being on set? And, I like dogs, but it's like, dude, what are you doing here? That is just effing weird. The guy is an effing weird dude.
Jay,
remember when he cried over Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, maybe he's just a guilty guy, Jay. That's all I can say. Maybe he needs the soothing comfort of a dog at all times because he's just a guilty guy. I don't know.
I will say this, man. If it's an emotional support animal, I don't know for sure. But people with emotional support animals got some serious problems outside of like whatever. And some fucking animal is not going to solve your problems for you. I think you need to nut up and just hit life head on, man. Like that, people that have those emotional support animals got some real fucked up shit going on. So,
But I
whatever.
know what you're about to say. He took another shot at the Ohio State fan base, which
Okay,
he
so you
loves.
did hear what he said.
Yeah, which he loves to do. Herb Street loves to take shots at the Ohio State fan base. Any chance he gets to lash out at the fan base, he takes it. And here was a chance, and he says, that. Yeah, go ahead. Tell him what
Oh,
he
yeah.
said.
So
if you didn't
basically,
hear it.
what he said, and I will say this, I just want to preface this by saying how weird this dude is and not get lost here. But he did make sense today. He said that if Ohio State, if they start struggling on offense, he basically, number one, he said it would probably be best for Ohio State to go on the road because they're not going to have the fan support if they start struggling and the boos are going to come out. He's not wrong. I actually agree with him there. Again, if Herb Street sticks to like pure football, I agree with him on most things, but he's just a weird dude outside of his job.
Well, you know what? I think, regardless of my feelings for Ryan Day, if I'm going to the game, which I don't know if I'm going to the game yet, because I don't know if I want to pay $400 a ticket, and I want to
It's
see
over $400, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so, if I go to the game, I'm not going to go to the game and be pissy. I'm going to go to the game and I'm going to cheer for them to win. Do I believe this team can win a national championship? No, I don't. Do I believe this? Do I believe this?
Okay.
Do I believe this team can beat Tennessee and at least have something positive at the end of the year going into the offseason? Yeah, I think they can do that. And so that's what I would be rooting for. So I think our fan base, I understand the frustration and everything, but we don't need to do that. Like, this is a playoff game. This is one and done. You win by 1 point and you move on. A win in December is a win in December, period. End of story. And so as long as the game's close, I don't think the playoff game is the appropriate time for our fan base to boo Ryan Day. If the game's close, cheer the team on, to hell with Ryan Day. But that's a different story. If we're like entering the fourth quarter and it's 31 to 13 or something, we're getting blown out, then the boos would be appropriate, because but as long as it's a close game, I hope we'll just keep a positive atmosphere in the stadium, in the shoe, and make it difficult on that young freshman for the UT Vols, that young quarterback.
He's a redshirt freshman. He's not a true freshman.
Right. First year starter.
Yeah, first year starter. He did start the bowl game against Iowa last year and tore them up. Yeah. Hey guys, I just want to. I don't want to sound like a sellout here, but this podcast is growing in popularity, and I see a lot of comments on the side. I'm going to try and address some of them, but I promise you when I say this, if you give us a super chat, we are forced to acknowledge it and read it off. Obviously, we have some things we have to talk about on our show. We would love to get to all of you, but that's just impossible. It's impossible now. I mean, like, I see a bunch of comments just like flowing through. I mean, I'll try and pick and choose some here and there and go off script, but we love each and every one of you. I do. Michael, you do too, right?
Of course.
We love our fan base here.
Antoine Johnson said, I guess he's having a conversation with somebody in the chat. He says, I was one of their first subscribers. Calm down. So I don't know who he's talking to.
Okay. Well, dude, yeah, like I said, man, I'm gonna try and get to some of them, but just letting you know, if you give a super chat, we're forced to respond to it. Just FYI. But we'll still try and get to them. I mean, it's not like we're that big, but we are growing. Man, oh man, Michael.
Yep.
So with that said, I'm going to look at some of the chats right now. So Slip and Skippy said he would love to meet you at the shoe. I guess Slip and Skippy might be going to the game. 12-team playoff. Southwest Lion, great to see you, man. Love you to death. 12-team playoff is awesome. Blah, blah, blah. Let me see. Yeah, a lot of people don't like this Tennessee matchup. It appears across them. Yeah.
And if anybody in the chat has any insides on getting some tickets, I'll leave the email that you can contact me at, and you can just shoot me an email and let me know, because I am looking for tickets. I'm not convinced I'm going to go to the game.
You need 4 tickets, man. I was trying to hook you up my parents' tickets, but I think they're going to be a bunch of sellouts and go to the game.
Are they going to go?
Yeah, they're going to be a bunch of sellouts, and I know they're listening right now, but I don't care. I told them not to go, not with Ryan Day as coach, but they don't listen to me.
Yeah,
they do not listen to me.
Yeah, I could have gotten tickets yesterday for 183 a piece. Now with the stupid, markups on it, it was going to be, well over 200 a piece. But today, the best I could find was like 416.
Yeah, man. Well, it's a night game, which is cool. I mean, I'm going to get into my initial thoughts about the game like later in the show. I'm not going to do that now. But yeah, I mean, it is a night game. It's the first, playoff game for Ohio State ever, and it's at home and stuff like that. So yeah, I can understand it being expensive. And Tennessee they are a name brand, even though their recent history would say otherwise. I would say Tennessee's last great team was, oh, I don't even know, man. Probably 2001 when they had, I think,
Yeah.
Casey Clausen or something like that.
Yeah, it was, right around that time they won the national championship in 98. There was about a
Yeah, they had a
5-6 year
bunch of
span.
years there.
Yeah, and then since then they've been very mediocre.
Yeah, I mean, they've just been solid. They've been kind of like, I don't really know. They don't really have a Big Ten comparison, but I mean, here's the I do know a lot of Tennessee people. So, I mean, so do you, and we're going to get to that. But Michael, let's dive in, and we need to recap championship weekend. Championship weekend, man. I know you watch most of the games. What games stood out to you, and what did you see in those games?
Well, the Georgia Texas game certainly stood out to me, and what stood out to me is that neither team is a world beater, but either team on the right day, certainly can be very dangerous, and I think could beat anybody. I'm not convinced about Texas. Quinn Ewers is not great. He's kind of good. And their big offensive tackle was out, who's supposed to be a first round pick. I don't know if he's going to be back at all for the playoffs. They could not really run the ball on Georgia, and there have been teams that have run the ball on Georgia. At the end, they brought in Arch Manning to do the Urban Meyer read option, and Arch got several yards on it. They should have put Arch in more. And I was very unimpressed with Sark's game plan and attack of that Georgia defense. And some of the play calling at the end of the game was absolutely horrendous. And so that game really stood out to me because that's the kind of year we're in. That those really could be two of the toughest teams to get through, is a team that doesn't have an offense, like just doesn't have one. And a team that just doesn't play tight. Texas just doesn't play tight. And in these big matchups, it shows. And so until they do play tight, there's nothing to really suggest that it's going to come together. I mean, it's kind of like Ohio State. They don't play.
You mean play loose? Until they play loose, you mean?
Well, what I mean, yeah, let me explain that. What I mean is, the operation isn't tight. It's not flowing at its highest level. They're not clicking on 8 cylinders. They're clicking on 6.5 or 7. There's little mental mistakes. There's drop passes. There's just a lot of things you can point to in these Texas losses. That's like, it just wasn't good. And it's kind of a pattern with them, as it is kind of a pattern with the Buckeyes in some of those big games. So there's a chance we could play Texas if we won enough. So that would be an interesting matchup. I would love to see it, but that would require beating Tennessee and Oregon.
Going back, so we're going to unravel a little bit of the Texas-Georgia game. And the better team won that game. I want to make it very clear. Georgia is better than Texas. They beat them for the second time now. Georgia was a little better on the lines. Georgia could actually run the ball some, or Texas could not run the ball at all. Not really. Texas, Georgia was better at the quarterback position. Both quarterbacks are better than Quinn Ewers. Now, Michigan fans, go back and look at the Michigan versus Texas preview back earlier this season. I was on the Quinn Ewers overrated train before anyone else. I've seen him play last year at Texas. He is a product of the Steve Sarkisian brilliant play calling. And yes, Steve Sarkisian is a brilliant play caller. He gets everything out of those players and Quinn Ewers that he can, but he's actually limited by Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers is not overly big. He's not overly mobile, and he has a weak arm. And he throws funny too. He's just an odd looking quarterback out there. He doesn't have an NFL future. Kyle McCord has a much better NFL future than Quinn Ewers. And you will take that to the bank. Kyle McCord has a better NFL future than Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers can't throw the deep ball. Quinn Ewers, I even texted somebody during the game, and I was like, Quinn Ewers is starting to look like, I always knew that he was overrated, but Michael, he was really looking like Will Howard-esque with how bad he was. Like, he's gotten Will Howard type bad, and that's saying something because their entire offense has to go with the quarterback. Like, the quarterback is not just like a piece, like it is the main cog. And if he starts struggling, and Georgia was doing the right thing, man. They were making Texas throw to win, and they took their chances because they know Quinn Ewers can't make the throws, man. He can't make the tight throws. Yeah, he had a couple throws earlier in the game, but they weren't great passes. I would not say any of them were really great passes. He just, yeah, man, he's just very, very overrated. The better team won. You wonder about Carson Beck's throwing shoulder situation there. I know he came into the game late, but at the same time, like he just handed the ball off. So don't know right about that. Both defenses are damn good. I just want to make that clear. Both defenses are damn good. Texas defense is damn good. Very fast.
Could have absolutely been, gamesmanship by Kirby, bringing Beck back onto the field, making the defense think, oh, he must be okay. They're probably going to bring him in and play action and pass the ball. And all he was going to do is run it anyway. So I don't know that that's, really tells us much about whether Beck will be ready to play the rest of the playoffs or not. A good friend of mine who's a Georgia fan said that the word they're getting is it's an issue with his UCL. So that's like very serious. Don't know how bad it is, but if it's somewhat severe, then he's probably not going to be back. So yeah, let's get a couple of these chats here. I think Penn State, Slip and Skippy, has an easy chance of making the Final Four. Yeah, they've got the easiest bracket. They've got the easiest bracket of anybody. Antoine Johnson, nervous energy day will not allow them to play loose with his job on the line. Possibly, probably not. Even though he specifically addressed that in the press conference today, that they were going to play loose and free. We'll see. SW line 26. Penn State actually looked pretty good yesterday. They gave Oregon a better game than I expected. Yeah, they did. Penn State seems to be playing their best football down the stretch here. Jacob Evans, Ewers balling against Michigan, though, in my opinion. Yeah, I remember him playing a pretty good game. He doesn't stretch the field a whole lot. He doesn't throw the ball downfield. So
very similar to Will Howard. They're almost like the same player.
Yeah.
Except that Will Howard, I think, has better accuracy on the intermediate throws, which is odd. Yeah, Quinn Ewers is that bad, man. He's just not impressive.
Shane Cup, yes, I've never been impressed with Quinn. Here comes the Michigan fan narrative. Day is this, day is that by Goj. Goj was also outing Antoine, saying that he is on all the Ohio State forums. I saw that earlier. Antoine said he was not, only on a few of them like this one that he liked. So I guess Goj and Antoine cross paths periodically out there. Let's see, a couple more. Antoine Johnson, Michigan didn't have a quarterback. Our quarterback situation and offensive coordinator was terrible. Yeah, both true for sure. Looks like you guys are working on fixing that. Let's see. Let's get one or two more. Slip and Skippy. I think Ohio State has to include Devin Brown in the playoffs before he transfers.
Why? Devin Brown sucks.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, he's he's transferring. We forgot to mention that. Good luck to Mr. Brown. All the best to him. And I think that pretty much catches us up in the chat. I think the rest is just kind of chats back and forth.
Michigan fans.
SW Line, I'd like to see
Go
Ohio
ahead.
State. SW Line 26 said, I'd like to see Ohio State do more up tempo. Absolutely. I don't know what.
I'd like to see Ohio State do a lot of things, but they don't because Ryan Day's a simple man. He doesn't have the brain power to think of it.
All right. So let's go.
I want to point out something. So I will say this: Michigan right now would beat Texas. If they did a do-over game of that game earlier in the year and they played right now in Ann Arbor, Michigan would beat Texas.
That's a bold take, Jay.
It's not a bold take because Michigan was starting to play a lot better. Hell, I even said when we went over that game, if they just don't throw so many interceptions, would have started and played orgy a lot more and ran the ball with more spread option and stuff, like they would have been in that game till the very end. I think people really underestimate Michigan's defense. Michigan's defense, I would take it, with a healthy Will Johnson and healthy Will Johnson. I would take their defense over any defense in the playoffs. And I'm not kidding when I say that. I think they have the best defense in the country right now. Now, it's unfortunate that they're going to go play Alabama, and who knows who's going to sit out for Michigan, who's going to sit out for Alabama. But I don't know. Just Michigan's very well coached. They are very physical. They're very fast. They got a lot of players there. I know, we're about to break down Tennessee. We're not breaking Tennessee down today, people. I just want to let everyone know that. There will be an episode for that, but it's not going to be today. It's not going to be the next episode because we have a lot of Big Ten playoff content, bowl game content. We'll get to it, but Antoine Johnson, our offensive coordinator, stupid, was begging Michigan run RPO. Stupid, I think they needed to run. Honestly, if they would have just tried to stay running the ball the entire game against Texas, they would not have gotten blown out even back then. But, they found a passing game late in the year with Davis Warren. Now, granted, it's very spotty, but they can make throws. Like before, they couldn't make any throws. Now they can at least make some. So, I would definitely take Michigan over Texas right now if the game were in Ann Arbor. And now on a neutral field, I don't know. Toss-up game, I think, because, I don't know. Just a toss-up game there. Michael, let's talk a little bit about Oregon and Penn State now.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that game?
Yep, one sec. Just want to address Slip and Skippy said, I still respect Devin Brown, though. Devin has been a stand-up guy. Yes, the Herb Street to Michigan. Kurt Herbstreit's son signed with Michigan. So, there we go. Some Buckeye fans were upset about this, have no idea why anyone would care if Kurt Herbstreit's son signed with Michigan. He's from here in Cincinnati, and he didn't even have MAC offers or University of Cincinnati offers.
I don't know. I heard something about expanded scholarships there in the future, and that's what this is.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. What the hell, man? Penn State, Oregon, man. We're still recapping championship week. What did you think of that game, man? Honestly, that was an amazing football game, in my opinion. What were your thoughts?
I thought they represented the Big Ten well. I thought both teams looked pretty fast and capable. I thought Penn State really handled itself well. I did not expect it to have the offensive firepower that it had. People can say that Oregon has a bad, people are coming out today saying Oregon doesn't have a very good defense. They've got a pretty good defense. I mean, I don't know that I would, Penn State is just a much better offensive team this year than they have been in years past. And so I guess you could say that does bode well for Ohio State's defensive performance against them. But Penn State looks like a team that can make some noise and can definitely get to the Final Four. And if James Franklin gets a couple big wins under his belt and they get rolling, who knows? Who knows what the Nittany Lions could do?
I want to give a round of applause to Drew Aller. Wow. That was extremely impressive by him. That was, man, oh man. It makes me literally think that all of the best quarterbacks in the country, Michael, are in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think. We have Dylan Gabriel, Drew Aller, Curtis Rourke. Yeah, those three. Nobody else, but still, like you go and look across like the other teams. Like I would take all three of those over every other quarterback other than maybe Carson Beck. But like I would put Drew Aller and Dylan Gabriel above probably everyone. Now Cam Ward's not in the playoffs. I would put Cam Ward up there too. I would put Shador Sanders up there too. But neither one of them are in the playoffs. I'm talking
Right.
about just in the playoffs. I think the Big Ten has the two best quarterbacks in this bracket, and that is Dylan Gabriel and that is Drew Aller. Man, both teams put on a show. Obviously it sucks that Ohio State was not there, but they did it to themselves. Don't feel bad for them. Actually, don't feel bad for any of them. I was going to say maybe feel bad for the players, but fuck it, man. They, whatever. They sealed their fate there. Penn State, like Oregon, it seemed like was absolutely dicing Penn State, and they were. Did you realize Penn State actually outgained Oregon by like 70 yards in this game, Michael?
Yes, I did.
They had apparently. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying Penn State was impressive offensively.
Man, their running game was just absolutely gashing Oregon. Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, especially Katron Allen, man. Katron Allen just, I don't know, he just figured it out, man. He just absolutely figured it out. It does make you a little worrisome about Oregon's run defense now a little bit. I don't know because I mean, like Oregon's run defense is so it's big. They have a very big defensive line, so it was really odd to see them get trucked like that because Penn State's running game, I don't know, maybe they figured something out in the last couple of weeks. I haven't paid ultra close attention to them because I wrote them off after they lost to Ohio State, and I just was not impressed with them. But I will promise you something, everyone. If Penn State calls an offense like that against Ohio State the first time around, they probably wax Ohio State in that first game.
Yeah. Some people are saying Franklin's 1-14 against top 5. Jacob Evans is saying that, yeah. But he doesn't have to face a top 5 team to get to the semifinals. So, I mean, it's the best opportunity of Franklin's career to cement some real signature wins by, putting a couple of wins on the board in this first inaugural 12-team playoff.
I want to point something out because, I mean, Oregon and Penn State definitely put on a show. They both look like teams that could, win the national championship. I'm not mixing my words. I mean, I already thought like Oregon was the best team, but for how good Penn State looked and they outgained Oregon, Penn State with their draw, they could win the national championship, Michael. I'm not kidding. Especially with Georgia's quarterback being hurt, they could win. They could win because they would play Oregon in a rematch. And, it's hard to beat a good team twice. It's really hard to beat a good team twice.
Absolutely. SW Line says he thinks it's set up for Ohio State to get some redemption. If they beat Tennessee and win against Oregon, that alone might be enough to bring back day. I know you don't want it to be so, but I do. I think 100% the administration would bring him back if he beat Tennessee and Oregon.
Kind of on topic here. We're going to get to the rankings here in a minute. But Penn State deserved to be ranked ahead of Ohio State. I know Ohio State won on the road at Penn State, but the committee made it clear that they weren't going to change the rankings based on the outcomes of conference championship. It has been cemented that Oregon was the best team all year, and Penn State went toe-to-toe with them in Indianapolis. Penn State had a total fuck up by choosing to throw the deep pass on 2nd and 1 when they could have just kept running the ball on Oregon and probably gone down and scored. Now, they would have had to have gone for 2. Who knows if they get it, but, losing, they were absolutely on their way to scoring a touchdown, and who knows if they get the 2-point conversion to tie it. But, I mean, they were right there with Oregon the entire way. After Penn State put up that performance, I think I even said to you, Michael, like, there's no way they should drop below Ohio State. No way in hell. Ohio State does not deserve any benefit of the doubt at all. And I love that Ohio State got the toughest draw imaginable. They are not deserving of anything good. The committee knows that program has completely fallen apart, and they did them no favors, and nor should they get any favors. Now I'm starting to get pissed off because Ohio State's in the spot they're in. But I don't want to get pissed off today.
It's clear that they were very much punished for that Michigan loss pretty severely, and that after that they were not going to rise back above Penn State. If Penn State would have gotten beat 45-17, I don't know. I mean, none of us know, but they didn't. And, as long as Penn State was relatively close, there was no way Ohio State was getting back up there. They were stuck in the 8 spot, and that's the way it was. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of close games, man, here in Charlotte, the ACC championship, man, another game where Clemson got a big lead. It's amazing to like kind of put yourself in the shoes of Alabama fans, because in their minds, they're cheering for SMU the entire way. Because if SMU won, then Clemson was absolutely out and Alabama's in. Mm-hmm. Well, Clemson got a big lead, and now Alabama's having to cheer for Clemson to like keep a blowout over SMU. But then it starts getting close, and SMU ties the game. And Alabama's like, okay, well, we need SMU to win again. And then they give up that kickoff return, and Clemson hits that 56-yard field goal. And it was the absolute worst case scenario for the SEC and Alabama. But you know what? Fuck the SEC, man. And you know what? Nick Saban was bitching his ass off today on national TV, saying like, oh, Alabama's strength of schedule, and look at who they beat. And should the game, if you look at the, I think like the composite resume, it's not even close. I'm like, oh yeah? I don't see SMU losing on the road to Oklahoma or Vanderbilt, by the way. They lost to 2 solid teams in Clemson and BYU. So there is no comparison there. And they had 2 losses to Alabama's 3. Alabama got blown out by Oklahoma. Oklahoma was very, Oklahoma had a damn good defense, but they didn't have much of an offense. So I don't know, man. That was just a crazy game, and the committee got it right. They absolutely got it right, because I was going to explode if Alabama got in over SMU. Alabama was not deserving at all. And for all the people that keep saying, oh, Alabama would beat SMU on a neutral field, we don't know that for sure. Alabama has 3 losses, 2 of them to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. So you can't tell me with a straight face that Alabama would beat SMU either. So I am not here for that bullshit. Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I totally get both arguments. I get that Alabama feels we would beat SMU on a neutral field, and I get why they would feel that way. But the bottom line is, much like Ohio State, you've got yourself to blame. Ohio State doesn't lose a bad Michigan loss, and worst case scenario, they're in the 5 spot, which is a pretty nice spot to be in. But they did. They lose the Michigan game, and now they're paying for it. Alabama, all they had to do is go 1 for 2 against Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, and they're in the playoffs, no questions asked. But they didn't, and you can't be crying to get in when you're 9-3.
Absolutely not. Just, letter of the law, don't lose 3 games. I don't think anyone in the field has more than 2 losses. Oh, I'm sorry. Clemson does, but they are conference champions. Clemson has 3 losses, but they're conference champions. So
they have to get in.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, yeah, I mean, really, really good game there. I was thinking about going. Tickets weren't expensive at all. I just didn't want to be out, for 2 teams I really couldn't care less about out in the damn cold. Like, I just not all that interested. Looking at some of the comments here, Ryan Day, 1-6 against Michigan and Oregon, can't beat the big dogs. Yeah, well, the SEC too. You can't beat them either. I believe he's 0-3
against Michigan, Oregon, and the SEC. And I put Michigan and Oregon because those are his 2 main conference foes as of late. And the SEC, he's 1-9. So that's pretty bad.
Yeah, they all right. Yeah, that's what SW Lion. They've been blown out. They would, give it. No, for sure. But like I said, but yeah, since they came back, tied the game, lost in the last second 56-yard field goal in Clemson's backyard. Because I mean, that was a home game essentially for Clemson. Clemson's a little over 2-hour drive, or SMU's in the state of Texas. That's a home game for Clemson in Charlotte. I mean, I know a lot of Clemson fans here in Charlotte, and a lot of them have graduated and live here. So this is definitely like Clemson, South Carolina, or Clemson and South Carolina Gamecocks territory. NC State's mixed in there too. I would say those are the three biggest programs in Charlotte, football wise. Basketball, it's all in North Carolina. Yeah, Ohio State does play Texas week 1 next year. That's not going to be a fun game to watch. Yeah. Lastly, Michael, the hottest team going into this playoffs is absolutely Arizona State. Very, very fun team. I know why some people have recommended Dillingham to be the next Ohio State head coach. He's still too green for my taste. I mean, he's younger than me. He's younger than me by 2 years. I'm like, no. You need to sharpen your teeth a little longer for a few more years before we're just gonna have you be the Ohio State head coach. We've already fucked up a few times putting people in charge of Ohio State that are just not, ready or have the experience. But man, Arizona State, hottest team in the country going into the playoffs. Most fun team in the country to watch, and the most likable team in the country. That Cam Scatabo, or whatever his name is, just a beast. He reminds me of this dude I played with in high school. Runs the same way, just a little faster, but just same kind of running style, never goes down, and is just fucking crazy, man.
Okay. So yeah, he was a beast back there. Joe J, check out Clemson's schedule. They didn't even beat anybody good. No, they didn't. They won the conference, so they get to go.
Well, they beat SMU, and I think SMU is a good team.
Yeah, SMU is a good team for sure. Trivia question for you guys. When's the last time Ohio State lost 3 straight games? I believe 94, 95, 96, Cooper. That's
no, it wasn't 95 or 96. It wasn't 94 either. I would probably go before that. 94, they were actually pretty good.
But I think Cooper lost 94, 95, and 96.
Michigan. 3 games in a row to Michigan, or 3 games in a row, period?
I'm assuming I think he's saying 3 games in a row to Michigan. Maybe he's saying 3 games, period.
Oh, no, he's saying 3 games, period. It's definitely pre-1994. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's definitely sometime in the Cooper years, the dark years of Ohio State athletics, the early 90s, late 80s. It's somewhere in there. If I'm gonna pinpoint it, I don't think it was 2011. I don't think so. Maybe it was. I don't know. Yeah, I know. We went 6-6 in 2011.
6 and 7. We definitely lost
6 and 7. That's right, because we lost to fucking Florida in the Gator Bowl.
So we definitely lost 2 in a row at the end of that season, Michigan and Florida. 3 in a row under Fickle. Okay, James.
Okay. It was 2011 then. Okay, I was thinking. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Urban turned them around and went undefeated. So yeah, man. That's I would say that wraps up the conference championship games talk. Michael, anything to add? I'm just going to say the committee got it right. With Penn State and their seeding, they made it to the Big Ten championship game, and they lost a close one. They got a great draw. I bet you any money that Oregon might take that draw. I think Oregon might take the first round game in Penn State's bracket and switch and have Penn State be the bye, though. I will say that's where it kind of gets a little controversial there. There is no controversy in having Penn State over Ohio State. They deserved it. They're a better team at the end of the year, and they made the conference championship game and looked really good in the process. So Ohio State, fuck Ohio State. They fucked themselves, and I do not feel bad for that team at all. Yeah. Did you happen to see Ryan Day's? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you should be rewarded for being a first or second seed. And, I know it's difficult when It's not like the NFL, and there's a very specific criteria on the field as to how you're seated in the playoffs. And they are kind of plucking people different places, but you should be rewarded for being a first and second seed. And Oregon wasn't. I mean, on paper, they were punished. On paper, they could be facing the number 3 roster in the country in their first round in the quarterfinals. Like, that's not, Oregon didn't get any favors done. So, I do think the committee needs to work on that going forward. I think there needs to be an advantage if you get that number 1 seed.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, it's like the NCAA tournament, man. You can be a number 1 seed and just have a terrible bracket. I mean, I feel like a lot of these people complaining about draws and stuff are not big college basketball fans. Because I'm a big college basketball fan, and sometimes it's just the luck of the draw, man. Not everyone is it's not always going to be perfect, and you try and do your best, but it's not easy to, seed and bracket these teams. We know that Boise State, and again, it was already written, like they said it before, like, the 5 and 6 seeds could have the best draws in this thing. And, unfortunately for Oregon, they have a tough draw. Now, Oregon's still the best team. I do expect them to make the national championship. I'm not ready to make any predictions on if they're going to win yet. It depends on what Georgia's got going on with their quarterback game. But, well, let's get to the Ohio State portion a little bit, shall we, Michael?
Yep. So,
did you happen to see Ryan Day's just press conference today and him on ESPN and all this stuff?
I did. Yeah.
Doesn't he just look like a sad, sorry motherfucker? Like, this guy is such a stupid clown. And all I ever do is just laugh. Like, every time I see him on TV or online, I'm like, that is just a sad, sad man. And he just needs to go get help. He looks like he hasn't slept. He looks like he just doesn't have any grip on reality. Like, I've never seen such a soft leader in Ohio State. He's just trying to dismiss the Michigan game as like, oh, so what? Like, you motherfucker, you've lost 4 in a row to them. Like, what are we doing? It just, what would you say you do here?
Well, I think the proof's going to be in the pudding. I mean, yeah, he's saying the right thing. As a team, you do have to move on from Michigan. You have to move on. You have to be ready to play Tennessee at home. And so he's saying the right thing, but he says the right thing a lot. And so, I mean, it's time to put up or shut up. And that's where we're at. And so if Day can put up a big win against the Vols, hey, I mean, he wins a little bit of favor with the fan base. He would win a little bit of favor with me. And so, yeah, either he does it or these are just more empty press conferences. And I agree, he doesn't look like a strong presence. He doesn't have that. He's never had that. The media has this strange relationship with Ryan Day, the Ohio State beat media, to where they both coddle him and disrespect him at the same time. They go through phases where they coddle him. That's mostly what they do. But then there's times that they ask kind of disrespectful questions that come out of nowhere that a lot of head coaches would not take kindly to. And Ryan Day just kind of takes it. And so, I think that personality trait of his, I'm not saying it makes him a bad guy, but I think it makes it difficult for him to be a strong leader.
I don't know, man. Honestly, it's more like comedy hour every time. So I swear my mental health is just not right watching this team. I feel like this podcast is a way for me to vent and everything. And my mental health is just not right. A lot of times watching Ohio State just absolutely fuck up and destroy everything. But that's okay, because now if I look at it in a different light and laugh at them, then it's not so bad anymore. And I'm looking at Ryan Day and I'm just laughing. I just find it funny. I'm just sitting there just like shaking my head and just kind of like smirking or something. It's just, man, oh man. But Michael, let's talk about the draw. So Ohio State, if they were to go and win the national championship, they would have to go through, obviously we know, your beloved Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah.
And then the Oregon Ducks. And then
And
the Texas Longhorns.
Likely. Yes, likely.
And likely. And then, or Arizona State, who's the hottest team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And then, most likely, the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yep.
They were done absolutely no favors at all. But, and again, Michael, the Ohio State media, they're all like, it seems like they are all at a funeral. What in the fuck were you expecting? We just lost at home to a team that was unranked. We were favored at home by 20 points. You lost to Oregon as well. Now, granted, that was a good game, but you also have lost two of your best offensive linemen. The committee, there is a human element. It's not just statistics. That committee is looking at that Ohio State team, and they're like, that team is on the brink of absolute collapse, and they do not deserve a good seed. And they don't deserve a good seed, Michael. They deserve the hardest route possible, because I look at it as a win-win in my eyes. If they were able to go all the way to the national championship, bravo fucking oh, baby. You have, got the program on the right track again. Anything less, Ryan Day, you're fired, buddy. You're done. So I like it. I didn't want Ohio State to back in to a semifinal game as the 6th seed like Penn State and fucking play SMU and then Boise State. Like, that would have been dreadful. In my opinion, Michael, that would have been the doomsday scenario. Like when they said in the Batman Superman movie, your doomsday. That would have been doomsday, because if we would have won those two games, unfortunately, Ryan Day is absolutely keeping his job when he shouldn't have. They would have maybe had a chance against Georgia, because they would have, played two lesser teams and played Georgia with like a one-armed quarterback. Like right now, Ohio State has to play good teams in every round, and I love it, man. Fuck Ryan Day. Fuck what he's done to this program. You fucking you put this path in front of you, Ryan. Now it's on you to go fix it and nobody else.
Yeah. Yep. And do you think he can do it? I know we're not doing a breakdown, but do you think he can do it?
I have a better question for you, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
What does Ryan Day need to do to keep his job? What does he need to do, in your opinion, to keep his job? Actually, here, this is a two-part question, and this is where it gets really good. What does Ryan Day need to do to keep his job in your eyes? And then what does he need to do to keep his job in Ohio State's eyes?
I think, honestly, I think in Ohio State's eyes, unless there is something that I don't know about, unless there's a coach that I'm not aware of, because Ohio State notoriously likes to have the next coach kind of lined up before they get rid of the current coach. And, that's why they were able to throw Jim Tressel under the bus. The Urban Meyer was out there, and there already was known that there was interest. So I don't know what they have as far as options for a new coach. And I'm going to assume that they don't have tremendous options. I think they would retain him if he won the Tennessee game and lost a close Oregon game. I think they would retain him. Do I think that that's enough to get retained? No, I don't. Because of the way I feel about Ryan Day and the way that I kind of project his trajectory at Ohio State, and that this is, that we're on the downhill. Like, it's not probably coming back up from here. We're probably, starting to tilt downward, and so I don't think anything less than a national championship. I don't want him back. But again, I know realistically that if he made it to the national championship and lost, there's zero chance they fire him.
Man, these are some really dark times for Ohio State football. There are some really dark times right now. It's really sad to say that because, 90% of the teams in the country would die to be where Ohio State is, but have some self-worth about yourself is have some dignity, Ohio State. You claim to be a blue blood program, then you should operate like a blue blood program. But they operate like they're fucking Purdue. Although Purdue fired their coach after 1 year. So maybe actually Purdue's a bad comparison. I think the better comparison would be Iowa. They operate like they're Iowa. And they're a quote unquote blue blood program, but Ohio State operates like they're Iowa, keeping Kirk Ferentz way too long. I'm with you, man. I think if Ohio State beats Tennessee, I think Ryan Day keeps his job. Although he should be fired if he loses, if he beats. In my opinion, the only way Ryan Day keeps his job is if he makes it to the national championship game, and he has to make it there. And even then, I would like to fire him, but the optics would just be too big if going through Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, like you're gonna keep your job. That's like gonna be essentially damn near 3 top 5 wins in a row, even though Tennessee's not a top 5 team, but to be 2 teams ranked in the top 5 there. But the only way Ryan Day is going to lose his job if he loses to Tennessee, and that is really sad and scary, Michael, because we are.
And I can't say
we are in a extreme purgatory, then we can't break out.
I can't say I have 100% confidence that if he loses to Tennessee in a 24-21 game or a 24-20 game, I can't say with 100% confidence that I think he'd be fired then. I certainly think it's a chance at that point, but I don't have 100% confidence in that. Do you?
No, I don't have any confidence in anything Ohio State does with Ryan Day. It's all kind of, I don't know, man. I feel like I have my pulse on this program pretty well, but no, I don't really have confidence in anything, Michael. How could anyone? I just find it so funny that the beat, like the main, on brand Ohio State media, they're all crying. And it's just, why are you crying now? Like, you should have been upset years ago. It's too late to cry now. Like, you missed the train on that. We've already done our crying. I've done my own crying over here already. Now I'm just ready to move on. It's just time to move on. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else needs to be said. This team right now, Michael, somebody was talking to, I was posting on some message board earlier, and everyone, they're trying to say, oh, Ohio State has the talent to beat any of these teams. And do they? Are we sure about that? I don't know that they do, because if you look at it, our offensive line sucks. It does. With the loss of Josh Simmons and Seth McLaughlin, this offensive line fucking sucks. The wide receivers are great. We know that. Will Howard, average to below average. Tight end, what tight end? We don't fucking throw them the ball. Incomplete grade there. Running backs, yeah, Trayvion's really good, but he doesn't have anywhere to run anymore. Quinshon Judkins, overrated, very average. Again, the talent on the offense is very overrated. The entire scheme was built on the offensive line being able to run the ball with Seth McLaughlin and Josh Simmons. Now that they're gone, they don't have anything on offense. This offense has become so bad. Michigan really exposed it, which maybe could be good. But again, I don't know, man. It's just, they have a lot of problems. They have a lot of problems.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's been apparent. It was apparent against Nebraska. It was, that was first game post Josh Simmons. That you put Josh Simmons and his name's slipping my mind, but the transfer from Bama, You put both of those guys back on this
Seth
offensive
McLaughlin.
Seth McLaughlin. You put Simmons and McLaughlin back on the line, and yeah, this team absolutely could beat anybody. You take those two off, and then the fact that Fry has recruited horribly and has not developed that he has recruited, because it just hasn't been good. We've got a very high recruit, Integra Shabola, who was a top 50 player from Lakota High School and is playing like a 3-star and not a very good 3-star at that. And so, I'm not saying, Justin Fry has been abysmal, and it very well could cost Ryan Day an opportunity to make a run at a national championship. And I don't know, could ultimately cost him his job, that he hired his best friend, made him the highest paid offensive line coach in the country, and the guy can't recruit his way out of a paper bag.
I want to give a shout out to a couple of people in here. I know Salty Balls is openly like cheering for, I have to always mention Salty Balls, but he is openly cheering for Tennessee. And I can't disagree, man. I can't disagree. I am openly cheering against the basketball team right now. I can tell you that. I actually wanted them to lose the other day. Probably every game until Jake Diebler is fired. That was a terrible hire by Ross Bjork. A lot of the comments in here, bad matchup. How can anyone have confidence in Ryan Day? This podcast doesn't. This podcast has never had confidence in Ryan Day. We were the first ones on the ground floor to be super on run again. Like when we first started our show, we kind of joked about it, but this show started in what, Michael? I think it was August of 23.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And even in August of 23, we were joking about all Ryan Day does is lose big games. That's big game Ryan Day. Big game Bob Stoops. Bob Stoops had the same thing. Ryan Day is essentially Bob Stoops without the national championship. That's what Ryan Day is.
Yeah.
And it's it's unfortunate we don't have somebody big time to take over within the team, but I wouldn't want to coach without experience again. We really got fucked hard by having Ryan Day take over this program. Jacob Evans, I made mention. Yeah, Michigan basketball is good. You choked hard against Wake Forest. I didn't like that game. But your team is fun to watch. The Big Ten's very so in basketball. You tried giving him a chance last year and lost against Missouri. Made me dislike. Yeah, man, you waited too long there. I think Slip and Skippy, you became a fan of the show. I don't know when you became a subscriber and fan of the show, actually, but I feel like I didn't start seeing you until this year, because Michael and I were on this last year. Michael, weren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we were saying the same things last year about Ryan Day as we're saying this year about Ryan Day. That hasn't changed. And we didn't have the podcast, but we were saying the same things in 2022. And so, unfortunately, sometimes, you don't want to be right. But,
I was calling for Ryan Day to be fired. So here's the thing. Man, and again, we're not breaking down the Tennessee game. This is just the stuff that's being said right now. But Michael, what's really fucking sad?
What?
Is that the Ohio State beat media is all saying Ryan Day needs to rise up and coach like he did against Georgia.
Well, I mean, that, when that's your peak, that's kind of like Ryan Day's peak.
What the fuck have we become?
Yeah,
what in the fuck have we become?
Well, that's the big rallying cry.
Did you watch that game?
Yeah, that's the big rallying cry is Ohio State is let's get Georgia Ryan Day. And it's like Georgia Ryan Day that, botched a special teams call that would have potentially sealed the game. Ryan Day that, had no cohesiveness with his defensive coordinator and how they were going to structure an attack to provide, preserve a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter. A Ryan Day who once again got ever so close and, calls some kind of trap play up the middle for nothing. and gets the entire opportunity to get a reasonable field goal off track, and we ultimately blow the game. Yes, Marv, I do kind of think that Marv was targeted, but that's not why we lost the game. We lost the game because of Ryan Day's mismanagement of the small things. It's been happening since he took over the program, and nothing has changed 6 years later. We just saw it in the Michigan game as he gets an unsportsmanlike conduct for the double timeout.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, man, I was openly jumping on Marta in Atlanta after that Georgia game. Yes, I was there in attendance, and it really just felt like a piece of my soul was taken from me that night. And yeah, it was a really, really rough time. Getting back at 2 a.m. that night, 3 a.m, whatever it was. And then trying to go to sleep after something like that was really rough. And I was saying, if Ohio State operated like an SEC school, you just fire this motherfucker now. But yet we have an Ohio State beat that actually thinks like that was a good game for Ohio State. Like, my God, how much we had fallen when people started actually looking at that game in a positive light. Like, holy shit, that's scary. Honestly, that's not even sad. It is straight scary.
Yeah, Julius says Brian Hartline is OSU's future. Julius says
no, he's not. Neither is Jeremy Laurinaitis.
Julius says Harbaugh is a gangster, and SW Line says that was quite a comment Harbaugh made about Day. He may have been right. Yeah, I think that when Harbaugh came in, he came in peak Urban. Urban was in year 3. He just won a national championship. He was starting year 4 with an extremely talented roster. The recruiting was rolling. That's what Jim Harbaugh came up against in Urban Meyer, and he never could overcome it. And it's like when the torch was passed, Harbaugh sensed this guy is a little bit weak, and he started taking shots. It's pretty easy when you're born on third base. His coordinators start taking shots. They're a good team. They're just not a tough team. And it it gets in his head, and it's in his head. Clearly, it's living in his head rent free, I think, quite often. And it has made him degenerate as a play caller. It's made him degenerate as I don't know if that's the right word, really. Made him take a step back, however you want to say it, as an offensive mind. Because there was a time that he had a lot of nice creative offensive concepts, but that time is seemingly gone. And I think a lot of it is the psychological warfare that Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan game has waged on him.
Salty Ball said that he found us through, I don't know. Apparently, if you type in Ryan Day sucks into YouTube or something, our podcast pops up, which is, cool, I guess. I don't know that any of our titles were ever said Ryan Day sucked, but I think it was like fire. I don't even know that we had a Fire Ryan Day title last year either. Interesting there. Slip and Skippy said he found us through the Missouri Meltdown one last year. A lot of people are thanking us for letting us vent. A lot of other shows censor and block them. Yeah, no, for sure, man. It's a very serious breach of First Amendment rights by yeah, man, especially for like websites and stuff that make you pay, and then they don't like what you say and then block you. So you basically just paid them for nothing, and that's even worse.
Yeah, I mean, nobody in our chat ever says anything that's even like a big deal. I can't believe that other places would censor that. But anyhow,
Antoine Johnson asked what coach would come to mind, and my number one option, man, right off the bat is Sean McVay. I'm giving Sean McVay $17 million a year and saying, come home and fix home. Fix home. Come home and fix home. That's exactly what I'm telling him. Blank check. We're giving you $17 million. We're finding a way to, Ryan Day's buyout, getting the money together there, offering Sean McVay whatever, offering him the moon. Yeah, that's where I would go with there. That's my number one option. Jay, do you think Ryan Day watches another dude bang his wife? Most likely. It reminds me of that show Weeds.
Who has
There was
that?
like this show. That was Jacob Evans. There was a show Weeds back in the day where like this dude was like he was paralyzed from the waist down, and like this, I forget the dude. His name was Andy. If anyone ever saw the show Weeds, really funny show. Andy was like a pimp in that show, and although he was like a weird looking dude, but he got women somehow. He would have sex with all the women in the show, but he was banging this dude's wife. And the dude came home and was like cool with it because he couldn't please his wife. Kind of like, yeah, probably Ryan Day. I don't know.
We're making a lot of emphasis on Ryan Day here. Julius, you see Herb Street's son committed to Michigan today. Yes, we did. We discussed that a little bit off top. Jay, got a question for you.
Okay.
Ryan Day for another year, or Mike Vrabel for a 5-year contract to be the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes?
Ryan Day for another year.
Really? You hate
Absolutely.
Vrabel that bad?
Vrabel
my
sucks.
God.
Vrabel sucks.
my
I promise
gosh.
you. I've spent enough time with Vrabel. Vrabel I hated almost as much as Ryan Day, but 5 years of Vrabel would absolutely. I mean, again, this program is like on the I mean, it has collapsed, but yeah, Mike Vrabel would not help anything.
You don't think Vrabel could be a Kirby Smart-esque type of college coach? You know, a guy who maybe was challenged.
No, his attention to detail is lacking. I saw it in the NFL. And he doesn't even like to recruit. He said that. He doesn't like to recruit.
Well, some people have said that.
I've said Sean McVay. That should be the number one guy.
Okay, what if Sean McVay's just like, no, I have no desire to coach in college. I'm living in LA and I'm coaching the Rams.
Well, I mean, I'll have to come up. I'd have to sit down and think about it, man. Again, this is not an episode to think about Ohio State's options right now when Ryan Day still has a fucking job and he's stealing from the university. Man, oh man. But yeah, Michael, I feel like we've gotten so far off track here. But that's okay. Sometimes it's more fun that way. It's good to just have an episode where we don't have any fucking script and just talk a lot of shit and just, guys, we're all in this together. Remember, kind of like during COVID, like where everyone was in it together, like Ben Shapiro on a show, like, hey guys, we're all in this together. That's the good news. Ohio State fans, Big Ten fans, we are all in this together. And yes, Sean McVay is from Dayton.
Yep. All right. You got anything else? So pretty much cover it.
I don't have much else, man. I feel like, do you want to explain why you hate Tennessee so much real quick? I know we'll probably do it again here in like a week or so when we preview Tennessee, but I feel like there's a good story to that. Yeah. If you want to tell the chat, I feel like number one, chat, get people to like and subscribe to this podcast because number one, Michael has firsthand experience of living in Tennessee. And I have physically seen Tennessee play this year. So no other podcast is going to have more of a pulse of what the Tennessee Volunteers are than this one.
Yeah.
So Michael, would you like to explain why you hate Tennessee so much?
Yeah, I moved to Tennessee when I was a kid and found out very quickly that the Buckeyes were not welcomed in the state of Tennessee. They were scorned. They were hated. And so my bitter rivalry was much more with the Buckeyes versus the SEC than the Buckeyes versus Michigan. I certainly, loved the Michigan rival, respected the Michigan rival, hated to lose to Michigan, especially those 90s years when Michigan ruined 3 straight potentially good seasons, cost definitively one national championship. No, I didn't like to lose to Michigan, but I hate to lose to the SEC. And I cannot stand that record that gets displayed all the time. 2 pathetic wins versus the SEC in all of Ohio State history. one, the great Jim Tressel with Arkansas, and one, the great Urban Meyer with Alabama, and just so many mind-boggling, ridiculous losses to the SEC, over the last 40 or 50 years. Tennessee fans hate Ohio State as much. I have experienced as much vitriol from some SEC fans towards Ohio State as I have Michigan fans, 100%, maybe even more. And
How bad was the 1996 Citrus Bowl for you then?
Oh, it was awful. Terrible.
Oh, I know. You were living in Tennessee then, right?
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh man. Revenge for the 1996 Citrus Bowl then, right?
I hope so.
Okay, well, I just want to give everyone a heads up here. So this is what the next couple episodes are going to look like. We're probably going to do on, middle of this week, we're going to do like a Big Ten bowl game show, and that's non-playoff teams. And then after that, we are going to do actual Big Ten playoff games episode. So don't expect Ohio State and Tennessee. And then I believe the week of the game, which would be probably like Tuesday or Wednesday, Michael, we will absolutely do the full-on Ohio State, Tennessee full game preview. So just giving everyone a heads up. So we're going to do Big Ten bowls, Big Ten playoff games, and then the Ohio State, Tennessee preview. And then after that, either Ohio State, Tennessee victory episode or a funeral, another funeral, like the official Ryan Day funeral, because anyone that goes to that game, I feel like if Ohio State really starts to, struggle, and Kirk Herbstreit is absolutely correct. As weird as that motherfucker is, he is right. That crowd is going to get quiet. They might start booing, and more power to them. And it's going to feel like a 3-hour funeral, a 3.5-hour funeral. And everyone is going to, honestly, everyone should just go wear black rather than scarlet and gray. Go wear black to the game and just basically be like, this is Ryan Day's funeral in Ohio Stadium. That should be the mantra or the slogan, Ryan Day's funeral, whatever title.
Should they do a blackout in preparation for
pretty much? Film? Yeah, I would. I mean, again, I need to deep dive into Tennessee more. I can tell you this offhand: Tennessee's defense is not as good as Michigan's. I can tell you that for certainty.
Couple comments here, Jay. We got Joe J. He is ready for the Ryan Day era to be done. He's fine just taking a loss to the Vols and putting another loss on the SEC's board there to get done with Ryan Day. He thinks that it's the ceiling and it's all down from here. I mean, unfortunately, I do agree with that. It's still just, I still just would like there to be a world where we beat Tennessee and Ryan Day gets fired, but I don't know if that world actually exists. Woohoo fan. I worked all over the South and hate OSU, and they hate OSU, consider them to be overrated. Yeah, they do. Michael Lee, Tennessee fans also despise Michigan, so the feeling's mutual. I hope OSU beats those trash, the Vols. Thank you, Michael. We will be rooting for you against Alabama, 100%. But anyhow, I think that's about it. Salty Balls with a comment there.
What did he say? I missed it.
He said Ryan Day pisses sitting down.
Yeah, I believe it, man. I wonder if he had corrective surgery already.
Jeez almighty. All right. Well, let's get off here, Jay. Thank you guys.
All right, guys. We'll see you next episode for a Big Ten bowl game show. And like, subscribe, tell your friends, man. This is the time to get on the train for this show, man. We're only starting to really get started here, it feels like, right, Michael?
Yep.
I know, man. We've kind of found our footing. So everybody, we love you. We love you guys for being here.
All right. Thank you. See you next time.